About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion late at night. It was about a 2-hour drive, and I left early because I had to work the next day. Most of the drive was on dark, wooded roads, the kind lined with thick trees and tall bushes on either side, the kind you only see in horror movies. I'd been driving about 45 minutes when I suddenly became extremely tired, like out of nowhere exhausted. I knew I wasn't going to last much longer on the road, but finding a safe place to pull over was proving impossible. There were no gas stations, no rest stops, just empty road and darkness. Eventually, as my eyes started to blur, I made a decision, one that was definitely questionable looking back. I pulled off the road onto a patch of grass behind some bushes, far enough that my car wouldn't be obvious to anyone driving by. The road wasn't completely deserted. A car passed every few minutes, but the place was still isolated and unsettling. I checked the time, 11:22 p.m. Then I leaned my seat back and closed my eyes. Maybe 25 minutes later, I woke up. There was this scratching sound coming from outside the car, like something lightly dragging across the driver's side door. It only lasted a few seconds. Still tired, I shrugged it off and went back to sleep. Next time I woke up, it was worse. The same scratching sound, only this time, it didn't stop. I checked the clock. 12:40 a.m. Almost an hour had passed. This time the sound kept going. A long, deliberate scratching, right up against the metal of the door. I tried to tell myself it was just an animal, but something felt off. Why would it be back after almost a full hour? And why did it push up against the car like it knew something was inside? That's when the scratching stopped. I slowly looked up into my rearview mirror, and I swear I caught a glimpse of something running into the trees behind me. A person-shaped shadow. Not a raccoon, not a deer. Something moving fast. Suddenly, my brain went to that old urban legend. The one about the hook-handed killer scratching a young couple's car before murdering the guy when he stepped outside. Nope. No way was I sticking around to become a sequel. I started the engine and drove out of there as fast as I could. No more than 100 yards up the road, I came around a bend and spotted something that made my blood run cold. There was another car pulled off the side of the road. Driver's side door wide open. Headlights still on. But no one inside. Instinct made me slow down just enough to look. Just enough to feel the hairs on the back of my neck go straight up. Because as I stared at that empty seat, I suddenly felt like something was staring back at me. I checked the rearview mirror again. At first, nothing. Then, out of nowhere, this guy comes sprinting around the same bend I'd just driven through. Full speed, straight at me. He was screaming. "Hey! Hey you! Get out of the car! Get the out now!" I floored it. The tires screeched, and I didn't look back again, not even once. I didn't stop driving until I hit the main highway 20 minutes later, where streetlights and other cars made me feel like I was finally out of danger. I never saw that man again. I still don't know what he wanted. If he was the one scratching at my car. If he was trying to bait me into stopping by parking that other car up ahead. All I know is, if I hadn't woken up when I did, or if I'd gotten out of my car just to check the noise, I don't think I'd be here to tell this story. A few years ago, I decided to go hiking alone, just to clear my head. I wandered off the main trail into the deep woods, an area I wasn't familiar with. There were no signs, no paths, just raw forest. I was about 20 minutes off the trail when I noticed something strange. There was this overpowering, sweet smell in the air. It was so strong and out of place that I couldn't ignore it. At first, I thought maybe it was a dead animal, but as I followed the smell, something in my gut told me I wasn't ready for what I was about to find. I pulled aside a wall of overgrown branches and ivy, and that's when I saw him. A human body, lying flat in the leaves. He had been there for a while. The skin was green and black, swollen and pulling apart. There were flies and other things moving in and out of him. I froze. It was the first time in my life I'd ever seen a dead person up close. Once I was able to break out of the shock, I called the local police. They told me not to move, not to leave the area, to wait next to the body until they arrived. Which would have been fine, except I was in the middle of nowhere, and it was already getting dark. So there I was, sitting in silence next to a decomposing stranger on the forest floor. The police took nearly an hour to get there. The sun went down completely. The woods around me went from quiet to pitch black and soundless. I kept my flashlight aimed at him the whole time, like somehow it would make things less horrifying. But all it did was spotlight every detail, every crack in his skin, every twitch caused by insects. I didn't know who he was, or how he died. All I knew was that I wasn't alone in those woods. When the police finally showed up, they told me the man wasn't murdered. He had committed suicide. For a while, I tried to put it behind me, but I couldn't, because that wasn't the last time I saw him. In the weeks after finding him, I started having dreams. I would wake up suddenly, drenched in sweat, because in the dream, that same man, the dead man, was standing in front of me, talking to me, blaming me for disturbing his resting place. He told me he was angry, that I had taken away his peace, and that the only way to make it right was to join him, to kill myself. It didn't happen just once. For months, his face crept into my dreams, all swollen and rotting the same way I found him in the woods. Every time, the message was the same. You shouldn't have found me. I never told anyone about the dreams. I convinced myself it was just my mind trying to process the trauma. But even after all this time, he still shows up sometimes. Not every night, but enough to make me wonder if I really did disturb something I shouldn't have. And after writing this, he'll probably be back again tonight. My house sits farther back on the lot than most others in the neighborhood. It's always been kind of an odd layout. The sidewalk runs along the side of the living room and ends right at the front porch. The porch leads straight into the living room, which has massive floor-to-ceiling windows that don't open. They let in a lot of light during the day, but at night, those same windows turn into a black mirror. Anyone standing outside could see everything, but from inside you can't see them. That's important to remember. The rest of my family was on vacation that week, and I had the house to myself. So, like any genius left alone for too long, I decided to get drunk. By around 9, I was already half passed out on the couch in the living room, the one right under those big windows. I remember feeling uneasy, like the shadows outside were heavier than usual, but I was too tired to care. At some point, I fell asleep. I woke up suddenly. No sound, no dream. Just that feeling when your body knows something's wrong before your brain does. I had chills all over, the kind that make you feel like the air itself turned solid. And then the sound started, right above me, on the window. I didn't move. I just opened my eyes and looked up, and there, pressed against the glass, was a face. Someone was standing outside, pounding on the window, inches above where I was lying. I remember my heart stopping. I looked over at the cable box, the only light in the room. It read 3:07 a.m. The banging didn't stop. It got louder. Whoever it was kept hitting the glass again and again, as if trying to break through. I should have called the cops. I should have done anything. But I just froze. After what felt like forever, the pounding stopped. I kept staring up, waiting for the next sound. Seconds dragged by. Then, nothing, until it started again. This time, not just from the window, from the front door too. Two people, one slamming on the glass, the other hammering at the door. The sound echoed through the house, deep, violent thuds that made the walls shake. They kept switching between the two spots, over and over, for almost 40 minutes. 40 minutes. And then, silence. No footsteps. No doors opening. Just silence. I lay there, staring up at the black glass, too scared to breathe. I didn't sleep again that night. I just waited for the sun. When morning finally came, I checked outside. There were smudges all over the window, like handprints. And on the porch, footprints leading up to the door, but none leading away. I called one of my friends later that day, asked if he could stay over for the rest of the week. I told him what happened. He laughed and said, "What the hell for? So we can both get murdered in our sleep? Yeah, thanks a lot, asshole."